Welcome back to the Ride Boundless podcast. This episode is brought to you by Ride Clean. Ride Clean is an ultra premium polish, sealer, wash, and wax. It's simple to use. Just simply shake, spray, and wipe. I use it on everything I have, from glasses, helmets, everything on my motorcycle, cars, windshield. It's a UV protectant. It smells amazing. It really smells really good. So if you're at home during the winter and you just want to clean your bike and work on your bike, do it. If you're looking for an excuse to get away from your wife, tell her you're going to go to the garage and clean the bike or the car. Check them out at rideclean.co. Use promo code RBPodcast for 15% off. Plus, they're running free shipping right now. That's rideclean.co, promo code RBPodcast for 15% off and free shipping. Before we get started, I just want to shoot out a thank you to all the followers and listeners. Make sure to check out the Instagram at Ride Boundless and on YouTube at Ride Boundless. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. Hope you enjoy it. Got an exciting new guest, a comedian, actor, motorcycle enthusiast, gearhead, the one and only Alonzo Bodden. Alonzo, how we doing, man?
What's up, man? How you doing, Robert?
I'm doing wonderful, man. Life's good. This COVID-19 hasn't ended, but at least I'm riding my bike everywhere.
Listen, at least we ride better than we handle tech, all right? You can tell your people this is our third try at this podcast.
It took us almost 15 minutes to get this situated. What kind of bikes are you riding right now?
Let's see. Well, the first bike out of the garage is a GS. Actually, this year's been a stupid year in bike buying and trading, unplanned. So I had a 2015 GS Adventure, and my dealer had, and he is a dealer. He's like a dope dealer. I've known him forever. He had a leftover 2019 that was really cool, had all the HP high-end gear on it, and he
nice.
Gave me an offer I couldn't refuse. So I upgraded, which I'm glad I did, actually, because the new motor going from the 1200 to the 1250 did make a difference. And I kind of like the new tech screen, also the new TFT screen.
It's amazing. It's
anyway,
great.
So that I've got the GS. I have the new Rocket 3, the Triumph Factory Custom on that, the story behind that. So I had the original Rocket 3, which I still have. I'm going to be selling. But anyway, I've had that for 15 years from when it came out. Always loved it. Biggest bike there is, torque monster.
It's a monster. It's a beast.
Last year, I rode the new Diablo, which was just a great bike. I've had a couple of Diablos. I love power cruisers. They always like, who likes power cruisers? I do. To me, power cruisers are sport bikes for old guys' knees.
and for experienced riders, because you know what you want, and it just feels better all around.
Yeah, they're like big naked bikes to me. But anyway, so I get the new Diablo, and literally a week after I buy it, Triumph announces the new Rocket 3, fully redesigned, bumped up to 2.5 liter, blah, blah, blah. So I get that. So I put in my order for that. So that came in February. So I've got those two. I have my old Rocket 3, and then I had a BMW S1000 XR, the adventure bike with the 4-cylinder engine.
That thing's a monster.
I don't know if you're familiar with Cafe Racer magazine.
I am.
I don't know if you ever met Mike Seat, the editor of the guy who created the magazine.
I don't know anybody from there.
Mike's a friend of mine. So every year Mike comes to LA to test bikes, and he always invites me to do test rides with him. So we're test riding, and we got the Kawasaki H2, the supercharged bike, not the H2R, not the crazy
right?
Bike,
no, the one underneath it.
It's called the ZH2. It's their version of the naked bike, even though it's not fully naked. But anyway, we ride this thing, and I'm going to tell you, Robert, I gave up sport bikes years ago. Just not my thing anymore. The S1000 was plenty fast for me until I rode that Cowie. I was literally laughing as it scared the hell out of me. So I traded my S1000. Well, I sold the S1000 and I got the Cowie. So those are my
Wow.
bikes now. The
That's a big jump.
the H2, the GS, and two different Rocket 3s, although one Rocket 3 is for sale. Then, of course, I keep my Grom because, it's a Grom.
Yeah, of course. So that's a total, what, 4 bikes right now that you always keep?
4.5.
4.5.
I count.
4.5. And it's funny that you say GS because that's kind of the thing that happens on this podcast, on the Ride Boundless podcast. I have a 2020 GSA, which I love the 1250. It's the same as the 19. It's amazing. And I actually heard that next year is the 30th or 35th anniversary of the GS, so they're going to make a whole new remodel change, which is pissing me off. But anyways, I picked up the HP, and then my other bike's a Street Glide, a Harley Davidson. And this podcast always seems to go like a full episode on GS, so people think I'm just looking for people that only ride GSs, or it's just straight Harley. So it's pretty funny that you started off with I got a GSA.
Well, I think once you ride a GS, it becomes your bike. There's nothing that does everything as well as a GS. I've had a couple of multi-stratas. And the multi is a fun bike, and the engine's really torquey, but it's not the GS. The GS, I think, is more refined. The GS is bigger, like more of a presence. I describe it, and you know this because you have one. It's an elephant that can dance ballet.
It's an elephant that can dance ballet. Absolutely, you're right. You're right, and it's rugged as fuck, just like an elephant. I mean, you can go anywhere and do anything, and it does it. It's very nimble.
Yeah, and actually, it is, and again, you know this also. It's a perfect LA street bike.
Yeah,
because it's big enough to have a presence, and I even the crash bars on it. I'm like, if I'm splitting lanes, I'm like, look, I'll hit you. I don't care. I'm in the GS.
Right.
You just feel that kind of crazy indestructibleness, and
it feels like a tank.
Yeah, exactly. And if you are an off-roader, even though I've only done like the occasional dirt road thing, I haven't done. Friends of mine and I keep talking about doing rawhide, doing the class, really getting into the off-road side. I don't know if you've ever done that.
I'm reaching out to them. I want to do a collaboration or work with them and do that.
Yeah,
get that training.
They invited me, and I was supposed to go last year, but work got in the way, which is something now I don't have to worry about.
Yeah, and I'm sure they're operating fully, right?
They are. They were in Colorado all summer. It was too hot, and now I don't know what's going on with all the fires. I don't know if they're. I heard that the national parks were closing or something. I have to reach out to them because with all the fires and everything, I don't know if they're riding now here in California or not.
What's going on? Yeah. Have you been to Gorman up on the 5?
I've been through there. You know what? When I went to Gorman, I did it with Leno.
Oh, nice. When you did the site.
Right, for Leno's Garage. Yeah, we took the Urals. We took the Urals to Gorman, which was just crazy.
When you told him he's crazy out of his mind.
Yeah, the Ural, as somebody described to me, is the most fun you can have at 45 miles an hour. Like they're not fast, but they're just indestructible and fun. And when you put it in two-wheel drive, it's really funny because there's no differential. So both wheels are turning at the same time. Speed. Consequently, you can't turn.
And in
you
dirt.
turn the bars. And the bike just keeps going forward because both wheels are turning together.
No, that sounds like torture. Oh,
it's comical, man. It's comical fun. Yeah, that was a fun episode.
That was his idea, right?
Yeah. It's always his idea. Jay calls me whenever he has a crazy motorcycle to ride. He gives me a call, which is fun because we do at least one episode a season, and it's always something fun.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be the dream, just go out there, be blindfolded, which he has blindfolded you also, right?
I did the blindfold test, got 2 out of 3
2 out of 3
on the blindfold test.
Actually, you were even right on the first one, too, but you second-guessed it.
He laughed at me. He said, well, you got it right, but then you kept talking, so I figured I'd let you go.
Yeah. Yeah, that was cruel on his behalf. But yeah, 2 out of 3 was pretty good. I don't think many people can do that. Do you know Bodie Stroud?
No, I don't.
He's a car builder in Sun Valley.
Okay.
Yeah, he built a pretty cool car. Since you're such a gearhead, he built Tom Fry, the owner of Crown Disposal, got like a Boss 494 motor that they built for Mario Andretti back in '69, and the thing was so powerful Mario Andretti couldn't get a lap around the track. The back end would just swing out. So Ford made like 8 or 9 of these, and Tom Ford bought, 3 of them. And then just in 2011, they built this Mustang Boss 494, which Jay Leno did a story on. When they got that motor up and running, it had like 777 horsepower, which is insane. So that justifies, and obviously because the Mustang was a unibody, there was no way they can get around. So if you can get any motorcycle right now, do you have that motorcycle, or is there something else you want to continue adding to the collection as of right now?
Well, there's always something else I'd want to buy, you know. So I would say the dream bike that I would get would be a Desmo,
I'm
um,
not familiar with that one.
the Ducati Desmo Sedici
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
from a few years, the MotoGP, only because like I couldn't ride that bike, but it was just so iconic and beautiful. I mean, I could ride it, but not what do I say? I couldn't ride it in anger. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
just but it was such a crazy thing to do to make basically a MotoGP bike and put it on the street. You know, I've always said that I wish I had bought one of those back when they came out, you know, and they pop up for sale now and then, but they're appreciating. And I haven't ridden one, but I'd like to ride the Arch. I'd like to ride that bike that Keanu Reeves is building. I don't know if you've ridden one of those.
I not
Uh,
yet, but I see them everywhere in Malibu.
I had a friend who was working for him, and he invited me a couple of times, but you know, I'd always be away, gone working out of town. But I don't know if I'd buy one, but I'd like to ride one and find out. I mean, I see them everywhere, and I've seen Keanu ride it on the track, you know, and it just seems like kind of a really cool combination of the big V twin with all the sport bike chassis and suspension parts. I'm sure it, and they build them basically. They build it to your spec as far, you know. I mean, I'm 6'3", I'm a big guy. Motorcycles are generally small. I'm always, you know, modifying seats, moving pegs, this and that bike they build to you. So
That,
that would be kind of cool.
I wonder who's the tallest person right now that owns one. Does
Yeah, I don't know.
doesn't
I,
Jason Momoa have one?
probably.
Yeah. I mean,
You
it
know.
would only make sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's in
Yeah.
that 6'3", 6'4" range.
Hmm.
Yeah, and then
Yeah, he's a big guy. He may have one. I don't know.
I mean, I heard I mean anybody can ride it, I guess. But have you seen the Super 73 electric scooters?
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard Jason Momoa jumps on those like no problem. Which is crazy. I can't even imagine it, but
Well, those things are fun. I mean, it's like when I ride my Grom, right? I mean, when I got my Grom, so Honda invited me when it first came out. I think it was 15 at the launch. They did a thing called the Grand Prix, and they invited everybody. They had racers, journalists, guys like me who just what they call friends of the brand and whatever to ride these Groms. They set up a track at Honda down in Torrance, and it wasn't a race. It was like you had it was teams of three, and you had to set a lap time and then try to get the closest to that lap time between the three of you.
yeah.
So because you obviously can't compare the speed of pro racers to a knucklehead like me. Also, I'm 3 times the size of Melissa Paris, so she has a little bit of advantage.
Right. Weight, size, all of the above.
But it was so much fun. We were all just cracking up laughing, riding this little bike. And then everybody was like, oh, I want to get one. I want to get one. And the Honda people were like, yeah, we'd like to get one too, but they're all sold out, blah, blah. So I found one used. I got one. And when you get a Grom, that's just your starting point, right? So now I had to put an Olean shock on it to hold my weight up. I did a fork kit. So the first thing you do is get the suspension to hold, because it's designed for 120-pound kids basically.
Right.
Then I had the seat reupholstered, and I like doubled the foam in the seat. So now I got enough leg room to ride it. Then it was really cool. Brock Industries in back east. I know Brock. He's like, "Oh, you got a Grom? Here, I'm gonna send you one of my pipes. I'm testing different pipes, so I got a pipe for it." Then he sent me an air intake, air filter kit, and this was really cool. The guys at Rizoma called and they said, "Hey, we heard you got a Grom. This is Rizoma over in L.A. I don't know if you've ever been to their showroom, whatever." And they were like, "We want to make stuff. Can we borrow yours?" And I'm like, "Hell yeah, you can borrow
Absolutely,
mine." So now it has ridiculously beautiful Rizoma bars, mirrors, and turn signals. And the last thing that happened, and I got really lucky, this shop that I deal with, they called and they said, "Listen, BSP wanted to make carbon fiber wheels for the Grom." And I didn't have one yet. They said, "No, we got a guy. We borrowed his. We got his wheels. We sent them to South Africa to BSP as models. BSP made the wheels, sent them back. The guy disappeared. They couldn't find him."
What?
And they said, "If you want them, just pay the shipping." And I was like, "Hell yeah!" So now I have a Grom with carbon fiber wheels and Rizoma kit. And
Wow, that's fucking.
Oh, it's awesome.
You ever take any of your bikes to the shows and like for compete, or it's just all for you?
Not to compete in shows, but I've had friends like Pro Italia, who I deal with a lot. They've shown off a couple of bikes. When I had my custom Ducati Street Fighter, they would put it on display. They put my Rocket on display because I did some custom work on my Rocket, stuff like that. But I've never done the full-on show bike thing. I had a Ducati 1098 Street Fighter that was probably the most show bike. It was built by a guy named Nick Anglada down in Florida, who's a friend of mine. I had high-sided the bike on a track, and Nick built it and just came out absolutely beautiful. And Cafe Racer featured it, Cycle World featured it. And I kept that for a few years. But, I like riding, and if something's sitting in the garage and I'm not riding it, I tend to get rid of it. I don't have room, or it's not my thing to just collect just for the sake of collecting,
Yeah.
That's why I always call my garage a Jay Leno starter set.
A Jay Leno. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, no, I mean, a lot of people, it's hilarious because, I ride both my bikes. I want to get another one, and I'm sure I'm in that point where I want to ride everything. But yeah, I wouldn't want anything just sitting there just for shits and giggles or just to show off. What got you into bikes? Well, I mean, how old are you? You're from the East Coast originally, right?
Yeah, I grew up. I'm looking for a picture of this bike. If I can figure out the Zoom tech, I'll just send you a picture of it later.
Or text it to me. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I'll send you the pic. I grew up in New York, so my mother is from South Carolina, and every summer we would go down to my grandmother. She had a farm in South Carolina. We'd spend the summers down there. So I was probably about 7 years old, and his family rented land from my grandmother, and the son had a bike. And now, in retrospect, it was either a Triumph or a Norton. It was a British bike. That's all I know. And he would throw us on the back of that bike and ride. There was like a dirt road, that went a couple of miles back and forth to the highway. Man, I fell in love with that. Like he took me on that everything changed. I just fell in love with motorcycles, with being on a motorcycle, with everything about motorcycles. And I swear, Robert, it hasn't changed to this day. There are still times when I get on a bike, man, it's my escape vehicle. I tell everyone that's my escape vehicle. I just love it. And it's something that it's in me, man. I'm one of, and this is why, like, the reason I love being around bike people, I always say, like, I just told you I have 4 bikes, and I've wasted, I don't know how much money on motorcycles over the year, blah, blah, blah. And when you're around motorcycle people, they fully understand. You never have to explain why. That's why I love motorcycle people. Motorcycle people get it. So if you have, just like I said, I told you I have 4 bikes, and then your first question, yeah, but which bike do you really want?
That's nice, but what do you really want next? Yeah,
right, and that's the thing, man. There's so many things about it that I love, but mostly it's that feeling of escape. Being alone in my helmet is
It's a
the
freedom.
greatest place in the world.
It's a soul freedom. It's definitely that. I love everything about riding. I don't even know how to explain it. I get so frustrated and fed up when I'm driving a car, and when I'm on a motorcycle, it's just so much freedom, especially in LA when the traffic stops or when the cops, slow down the freeways. At least I can get to the front. I can see who are the stupid drivers. It's interesting also when you ride a bike, you see everything going on. You could see people's rearview mirrors. You see people their mirrors are all offset. They're not paying attention. They're on their phone. They're fucking around. Like you just see how bad people drive. And this has given me a clarity of many years ago people said, "Hey, self-driving cars." I said, "Well, that's crazy, and I love driving too much and riding too much." But now, with all the stuff you see with the motorcycle, we shouldn't be driving. I mean, not us, but many people
No.
should not be driving a car.
Well, they're not.
Well, they're not. Yes, thank you.
They're in it. They're in it, and they're not driving. And yeah, we see that all the time. And you said phone. I see people on their
iPad, yeah.
while they drive. And
Makeup,
when
food.
you're on a bike, you're part of the scenery. You're not looking at it. You're part of it. So you're definitely, it heightens your awareness. We're so lucky we can split lanes in California. I don't know how much you've done riding in other states.
I've done it, and they're dickheads.
I forget when I'm in other places. I forget that I'm not allowed to split lanes because it's so ingrained in me.
And people in cars will let you know you're not supposed to do it.
Yeah, they'll treat you like you're a hardened criminal.
Yeah.
But when people ask me what it's because people are like, you ride in LA traffic, you're crazy. I'm like, it's like playing the world's biggest game of Frogger.
Yeah. Yeah, it's simple as that.
I'm playing Frogger all day. And yeah, it is fun. It's also a great way to get from point A to point B.
Absolutely.
I'm the same way. When I'm in a car, I will get frustrated sitting in traffic because I'm thinking I could have already been there.
Yeah.
I could. If I was on my bike, I'd have been there by now. My girl knows.
I'd be on my way back.
Yeah, she knows when I'm in a car too much. She's like, "You need to ride. You rather be ride." I was like, "Hell yeah, I'm gonna do this," but it's a necessary evil.
Yeah,
when it comes, the thing about the self-driving cars and the technology, the thing I worry about is, will they see us?
Right.
I'm not a big fan of self-driving technology for the same reason you talk about. People already aren't paying attention. Now you hear about these Tesla crashes where people were doing something completely different. Like Tesla says, hey, keep your hands on the wheel, or you know what I mean? Like, and people just figure, nah, it can drive itself. I'm gonna sit in the back seat and take a nap or whatever the hell they're doing. So
right.
I know it's coming. I don't know that I like it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, in my opinion, I just see so many shitty drivers that I think I would trust bad tech or limited error tech versus just people overall, because it just seems like people are getting lazier and lazier. And if you look at the new generation of people, like, kids now that are 17, 18, 19, 20, I hear these guys don't even want to, try to get their driver's license. They just want to go on Ubers. They want to do the minimum. I heard a state now doesn't even require to do a DMV test. Like, I just don't think people, I'm getting to that point where I don't trust people. And the more of this craziness, like this COVID-19 thing, I'm seeing, well, that's the truth. The problem is always people, usually.
Well, and that's the problem. And by the way, it was Georgia, because I was on a podcast. We talked about that.
Georgia. I was catching up on
that. At the beginning of the pandemic, Georgia said, well, because of the pandemic, we're not going to require a road test. And it was like, are you insane? But here's my problem with the self-driving, and it relates to what you say, right? There's no algorithm to match human stupidity. So the engineers who design and build these systems are brilliant, and they design the car for every scenario they could think of. You know what I mean? But
right.
Human stupidity will conquer that. A person will do something that the sensors, the computers, the algorithms cannot figure out, and then you'll have an accident. You
Yeah.
can't. You see people. My favorite is pedestrians at night, and it's like you realize you're invisible.
Right.
Like right now, like you're wearing a black shirt and a hat. I don't know if you're wearing jeans or whatever you're wearing, but
Right.
but
Black,
if you
actually, black
walk
shorts.
if you walked across a street at 10 o'clock at night on an unlit street, I can't see you, right? You just
Right.
Yet they do it all the time, and I'm like, what the hell is wrong with you? You're jaywalking and you're invisible. you know?
Right.
So
Right, but I do, and I mean, I don't want to get too stuck on this one topic, especially with so much things. But the infrared, wouldn't the infrared just take care of that?
again, in
Tech,
theory,
yeah.
yes. In theory, yes. But in practice, you've seen the stuff people are doing on the road, man.
Oh no, that's why I'm pushing more towards it, because I just see people. I mean, you're talking about nighttime, and then a goofball wearing all black crossing the street, and now we got to wonder about the person inside. Is it a person texting? Is it a person drinking? Is it a person that had a hard day at work and they're fucking exhausted? Like that's another thing. When I'm exhausted, what I like about motorcycles so much, no matter how tired I am, as soon as I turn on the motor, I'm fucking alert. I'm just
Right.
eyes open, my senses get up, and it's until I get off the bike and turn off the engine, that shuts down again. But it's amazing how you get that when you jump on a motorcycle.
Yeah, you're probably not going to fall asleep riding on your bike.
Right. Yeah. No.
Although
Nobody.
I did have a girlfriend fall asleep on the back of a Goldwing.
I've had that too. I've had that. You feel the helmet just hit back of your helmet, and then you got to hit her with your helmet. Like, what are you doing? Wow. This happened to me in Monterey, and we're going through, Carmel on turns, and I just feel these arms just wrapped around me, not even grabbing, and this helmet just bouncing back and forth, and I'm like, how fucking crazy is this? It's super fucking crazy. How's the whole comedy thing going right now? You're traveling, right?
I did some. It's very weird right now because parts of the country are open, parts of the country are closed. There are different regulations everywhere. So work, it's so many different ways, right? Like last month I went to Tampa, and Florida hasn't closed anything.
Nothing.
The club in Florida, they cut it to half capacity. The tables were 6 feet apart. The customers wore their mask until they sat at their table, and you could only sit with people you came in with. That was their safety, on that end. The comics, each one of us had a different microphone for safety's sake, and the shows were good. Now, I didn't do any meet and greet photos, merchandise. I know some comics who have, and I know a couple of comics got sick doing it. I wouldn't take that chance, but I didn't mind performing in front of people.
What about the traveling experience, the planes and?
The flying wasn't bad at all. The airports, a lot of stuff is closed in the airports. A lot of the retail, the food, this and that. They tell you eat before you get there because chances are nothing's going to be open.
Wow.
There's that. But getting on the plane, so when I flew, the first flight I did was American. Everyone had to wear a mask. People were conscious of it. And it's not super crowded. That's another thing. But people were, I would say, conscious and respectful as far as keeping distance. And the only time you really ran into people sort of crowding was boarding the plane. Because that's just human nature. When they say boarding, everyone just kind of gravitates toward the gate. Then I flew to St. Louis on Delta. And Delta, they ain't playing. Delta is like no vented mask. It has to be a full mask. Can't have those little breathing vents on it or anything.
Yeah.
They board the plane from the back, so no one's walking past each other. No one has a person sitting next to them. There's always an empty seat next to you. And they give you your own wipes when you get on the plane. They're like, here you go, wipe it down for you.
Wow.
We clean it, but you can do it. So Delta's not taking any chances, which I respect, and
Absolutely.
most people are pretty respectful. You get sometimes people forget, which is kind of funny. People will get excited and they be, oh man, it's you. I'm gonna take it, and it's like, hey, so and they're like, oh yeah, yeah, you're right. And I'll do selfies with them, but I'll do it at like a social distance, like I'll stand behind them and
Yeah.
say, hey, let's do the picture.
6 feet apart.
And I've been fortunate that I haven't run into any of the I call them the COVIDians, the ones who think the mask is somehow against my constitutional rights and I'm gonna blah blah, and I'm an American. It's like,
Yeah. My
stop being an
freedom.
asshole.
Yeah.
It's not freedom. It's just don't be an asshole.
Yeah. Don't be. Yeah. For respect
and
of your parents, your family, your aunts, your cousins, and for others.
I was fortunate, didn't run into any of those people, any of those situations. Even in Florida, where obviously there's a big, that big move. I mean, the fact that we politicize the mask is really stupid, but that's what's happened.
Yeah.
And I have friends in other countries. A lot of people I know in Canada. I have a friend in China who's dealt with this from the beginning, and they're all looking at us like, "The hell is wrong with you guys? Like why are you know what I mean?
Why are you fighting
what's
it?
wrong with you?
Yeah.
What's wrong with you? Put on a mask, stay apart, try, and you'll be okay." And this leads right into the motorcycle thing, because I don't know about you, but this has been true for me from the start. Even back in April when the quarantine really shut us down, I was like, a motorcycle is the ultimate social distancing vehicle.
Absolutely. Helmet,
I got on a
gloves,
helmet,
leathers.
I got on gloves, I got on a jacket, and I'm by myself. I'm good.
Even if you're
And I
riding with
would
somebody, you can't be 6 feet close to them, even if
right,
you wanted to.
there were some people who were doing group rides, which I was like, not a good idea, because when you stop, you're naturally going to gravitate toward each other. But yeah, but overall, I was riding the whole time for sanity, and it was fun being on the road with the roads completely
So empty. Well, I love it, and I still love it, but there was, and we're still seeing it now. There has been a moment where people are taking advantage that the roads are empty, and they're fucking flying. They're flying, and you see Camrys flying.
It's not made to do that.
Yeah, because I think that car was going. I think they reported it was like 55 miles per hour on a 35, and it flipped into the Marshall's parking lot, broke the wall, hit a car, and the people inside of it died. And it's like that's crazy. I mean, it's back to people just speeding, but yeah, guys, you shouldn't be doing that in an SUV. Unless if you get like one of you said, the X5s, X6, Q8s, the Mercedes did a new crossover. The Lamborghini one, the Lamborghini's fucking beast.
Oh, yeah, I got a friend with the Lambo. If you have a Lambo SUV, you can drive fast.
You can do whatever you want. Okay. You should be able to do whatever you want. That's it. You can afford that. You got the insurance. You can do whatever you want. Let's see. And then, so traveling online, now you're doing a bunch of online stuff, right?
Do a lot of Zoom, a lot of virtual
performances.
Stuff. And, I'm sorry?
Performances? A lot of Zoom performances or online? Mm-hmm. How's that? Yeah. Break that down. And what are your thoughts?
Well, it's changed and it's gotten better. So when the pandemic and the shutdown first started, we did some Zoom. Like at the Laugh Factory, we did virtual shows where we performed on stage with no audience. And they broadcast it through YouTube, and it was very weird. And the Zoom shows were weird because you don't hear anybody laughing. It's like you don't get a response, which you're used to for timing and for everything else. But then what happened was people, and one in particular, I've done a couple, it's called the Nowhere Comedy Club, where these guys set it up through Zoom and everyone's mic is on. So you can hear people laughing and they're monitoring it. So if your dog is barking in the background, if your baby's crying, or if you're trying to heckle or interrupt the show or something, they can mute individuals.
That's crazy.
Right. But you can still hear enough people laughing that you get a better feel of doing a show. And even there have been some corporate meetings where they have comics come in and we try to, joke around and break it up. And that's cool. The difference.
How do you see it? So you're on stage and you're looking at a bunch of screens, or
Yeah, yeah, you're looking at the grid. You're doing a Zoom, so you're looking at the grid.
That's
It's just
fucking
like
wild.
any other. Like right now, right? I can set it up that you and me are looking at both of us, but we could switch it that when I'm talking, I'm on the screen. When you're talking, you're on the screen. Just regular Zoom setup.
Yeah,
I like seeing the grid of people, and I will stand up and I set up this little Zoom. I call it my Zoom room in a spare bedroom,
yeah.
and I got the. That's where I'm at now. I got the camera. I got two monitors. I got the light,
You got good
and I'll
lighting.
just do my thing. Because we had to adapt. If you're gonna work, this is the only way we can work. So the people ask, "What's the difference?" It's the difference between playing Grand Theft Auto or actually stealing a car and running from the cops.
Yeah.
Um, Actually stealing a car has a bit more energy, but
Do you think
this'll do.
do you think if you had a because you've been doing comedy for 30 years, right?
27 years.
27 years.
27.
So do you think if you had to start now in this situation, it'd be better, or is this like going back? Is this a step backwards or forward?
It would be. It would be. So it. There's not even a better or worse. It would be so different. It would be worse. It'd be because part of anything, any creative endeavor, whether it be comedy or music or something, when you have a live audience, there's a certain energy. Now, if you're making a TV show or making a movie, that's different, right? Because it's all scripted and you're interacting with the other person that you're acting with. But when you're doing a live performance, there's an energy that comes from a crowd. There are things that happen in the moment that you have to react to. It makes every show different. And it also, as you're learning it, you become better because you have to deal with different things. You never know there's going to be a heckler this night. The microphone ain't going to work somewhere. You're going to, whatever. And you become better doing it live. So
Right.
if you started today and you only did this, the closest thing I could compare it to is being a DJ on the radio, where you're talking and you're assuming people are listening in their car. You're assuming they're laughing if you tell a joke, but you never really know,
Right.
you know. And even doing radio, like when we do morning radio for show publicity, which I do a lot, even then you're normally going to have two or three people in the studio. So if you say something funny, someone's going to laugh, right?
Right.
But if you're just sitting there by yourself talking into this camera, you have no feedback.
Yeah, you
So
don't even know how people reacted to it or responded to the joke,
right,
or you don't know
right.
where to
So
pause.
it's like in the beginning when you try to memorize your act and you're home just doing it over and over just to memorize it. That's what it would be like. No, this isn't the circumstance to start. Although, people always figure it out, right? So like that woman, Sarah Cooper, the one who started doing the lip syncing of Trump's speeches. I don't know if you've
I
seen
haven't
any of
seen
her
that one.
videos. She's hilarious. She literally,
Sarah Cooper.
she literally lip syncs his exact speech, and some of them with the stumbling and everything else, literally word for, and it's hilarious to watch because some of the things he says are so ridiculous, and you see it coming from this woman, with his voice. It's really funny.
It sounds
But the
creative.
point
It sounds
being,
very creative.
that's what it is. The thing is, people always figure out how to make it work, right? So we're in this
We have to.
situation where you can't perform live anywhere and everything's on screen and virtual. And God bless her, she figured out something to do that is just hilarious, and it works. So there's a creativity involved that people will always figure out how to make it work. And the Zoom, the virtual comedy clubs, and people also like it because people are sitting at home and they want to see something funny and they want to laugh. Instead of watching a Netflix special, which was recorded in front of a crowd, 8 months ago, which is still great. I mean,
Right.
Don't get me wrong, it's great specials. I've done a few and so on. But instead of that, you're having someone do live comedy in front of you in the moment. So now you're getting jokes about the topics that are going on right now because anything
instant.
recorded
Yeah, you're right.
anything recorded prior to March they're not going to be talking about the biggest news story in the past 100 years.
It's irrelevant. Yeah.
Pandemic, because we didn't know. So now you'll be watching the economy. You're like, how can they not mention anything? So yeah, we figured out, just like you and me with this technology. Nobody knew who Zoom was in February. You never heard of Zoom.
Yeah. Well, I've had some business conferences, but many people haven't heard Zoom.
You're in this business, but I'm talking about the average person. Like, you're in the podcasting business and so on. Right. Average person never heard of Zoom. What the hell?
Zoom.
Now
what?
We're all like, man, why couldn't I have bought Zoom stock in February?
I know. Have you been following the stock market?
Not really, peripherally. I know it went down, it's come back, and now everyone's talking about the housing market, which oddly is going up really fast.
And very, very, very oddly. I got a buddy of mine. He was putting a proposal or an offer, and there was a place by Cover. He was going to put it was going for $800,000. And, I said, how much are you going to make the offer for? $750, $720. He's like, no, $890. I go, $890, but it's $800. He goes, Robert, I've made like 4 or 5 offers. I get outbeaten all the time. They don't even look at those offers. They pass them up. I go, what's going on with the housing market? What's the reason behind that? Do you have any idea?
I have a friend in it, and he said it's because mortgages are really cheap right now.
Yeah, but I heard the qualifications are insane.
Yeah, well, it's a matter of if you can qualify, you buy.
Right.
If you can qualify, the interest rates are low. And what a lot of people are doing is they're trading up. Right. So if you have the $500,000 house and you have, I don't know, a couple of $100,000 in equity, now you can sell that $500,000 house for $600,000 house, and then use your equity to buy what you talked about, the $800,000. People are trading up where they can, and the other thing is, there's always rich people,
right?
Whenever there's a
and there's
crisis,
always China. they're always coming by and stuff. So no matter what,
their money. Listen, their money spends.
Or the Arabs that come like in December or January. Have you seen that?
Yeah. It's not even just that. I mean, the last crash in 2008, 2009, you know who bought up a lot of properties? Canadians.
Really?
Because the Canadian banking system didn't crash. So Canadians were able to get mortgages, and we had all the, they call them snowbirds, right? They come to Florida and Arizona for the winter.
Palm
and
Springs.
I know because I had a condo in Arizona that I had been renting, and suddenly I couldn't rent it out because it was cheaper for them to buy, because they could get a mortgage in Canada and buy a place in Florida or Arizona or somewhere warm. And that's what so the people who had been renting from you every winter were suddenly like, well, I'm just buy one, because it's because their banking says, I used to do a joke like, they had a thing with their mortgages. You actually had to have a job to get a mortgage.
What?
Yeah, exactly.
You gotta have an income? That sounds
What kind of craziness is that? We were doing those stupid, no interest, no money down.
Yeah, 0 deal. In 5 years, you can refinance. Your payment will be like $1 today, and then it goes to $10,000. But don't worry, because everybody's doing it.
Nobody worried, and we saw how that worked out.
Yeah, that was extremely a shitty deal for a lot of people. And the crazy part is and I was just talking about this in my last podcast. The crazy part is that when people buy a house in those circumstances, when you buy a house, you get your house, but then you got to get that furniture for that house. And then if an ATV looks nice in that house, you got to buy the ATV and the trailer, and then you got to buy a motorcycle because Frank has a motorcycle, right? He's the new, and the extra expenses. And when that shit went down, I mean, people on top of losing their houses and families and everything else, all this other stuff. I mean, I don't even know how anybody would recover from that.
That was a big blow for Harley, right? Because so many people bought Harleys with those cheap second mortgages.
Yeah.
They got the second mortgage and they went out and they bought a Harley, and you have one, and you know how it is. That buying the bike is just the starting point, right? Then they start with the accessories. Before you know it, they got a $30,000 bike, but they're paying for it with a second mortgage, so it's only costing them $200 a month or something. But then the banking crashes, Now suddenly, how are you going to pay for that? And that Harley took a big hit. A lot of people, their customers, suddenly couldn't buy their bikes, right? And then people were trying to sell them, and Harley's always had a really high resale, but then the market got flooded and the resale dropped.
It was weird times. I was a general manager at Harley Davidson in Van Nuys during that time, and it was weird because we were selling a bunch of motorcycles prior to that. Then there was a dip, and because everything crashed, it was interesting. It was the first time I saw families come to the dealership, like husband with his wife and their kids, and the husband, I don't know what bullshit he told his wife, but he's like, I got to buy a bike because it's cheaper in gas and cheaper in insurance and service. I'm like, whatever, bro. Like, come on, And I that was a time where I sold the most motorcycles to full on families, because usually it's the guy that comes by himself and maybe, or unless if he has his girlfriend, then his girlfriend thinks it's cool. But nobody comes with their wife to buy a motorcycle. So I thought that was interesting. But yeah, that was a shit show. That was a shit show. Do you think that was worse than this? No. This is way worse.
Well, I think it was worse economically because the banking system was crashing. I mean, once the bailouts happened and they, propped the banks back up, but I think it was worse in that sense. And a lot of people lost their homes. I think more people lost their homes then than is happening now. Now people,
but we don't know about now, right? Because
we don't know yet.
The rent's extended
like
till,
if people lose their home now, it's because they lost their job and they can't make the mortgage payment. But I think in that one, the system fell apart. And I think that's the difference. Like the finance system fell apart. This time,
but this time you have now they extended till December 31st, where you don't have to pay your rent if you can't afford your rent. So that means people right now, or people that haven't been able to pay it, can continue pushing to December 31st. But what happens December 31st? They're going to have...
Well, they're hoping that things open up, that people start working. And then you just push it to the back end, right? You push it to the back end of the mortgage.
But I'm talking about renters.
Well, the same thing with renters, because you have to bail out both. Because if the renter can't pay their rent, then the landlord has to get a break on the mortgage. You can't expect the landlord to pay the mortgage if the renter's not paying the rent.
Right.
Right.
But I heard they're not favored. Well, yeah, that's comp. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, and then you get into the banking of it and who they're going to bail out and who they're not. It's one thing if you have like a second home, you unfortunately might lose it if the renter can't pay the rent, right?
Right.
But if you're a developer and you got 5 apartment buildings and this and that, they don't let you go bankrupt. They just loan you more money to keep you in business because they're making money off of you.
Right.
So and then we don't know what the government's going to do. We don't know if there's going to be another bailout. Hell, we don't even know what the government's going to be. We don't know right now. We really don't know which government it's going to be come November, and they have radically different plans. So nobody knows what's going to happen in December.
No, nobody.
Right.
And financially, nobody knows. They're printing out so much money. It's like, it's almost concerning. It's almost like, are they printing out this much money and then what? What's the money going to be worth in 3 months?
It seems that is something that short term hurts us, but long term we recover from. Just like the 07, 08, by 2015, 2016, like it was okay. We lost a couple of the big investment houses and some people lost their homes, but our economy was moving again. It wasn't moving as fast, wasn't growing as fast, but it was moving. And again, I think now we're so international, right? Everything is so global, like you said, with China. And, we're so tied in with the Middle East, with oil.
Yeah, we're a global economy.
It's a global economy. So there are certain drivers to it. We're a driver. China is a driver and so on. But they're all connected. So I don't think the world economy is going to crash.
Yeah.
We'll have to prop it up. And again, like I say, like I have friends in Canada, right? And what Canada did, right at the beginning, every Canadian. Now, remember, Canada's much smaller than the U.S. You're talking about a population of 30-something million versus 300 million. But what they did was everyone got $1,200 a month from the government. And the reason they did that is so people would continue to spend money and the economy would keep going. Because you took away that fear where people are like, I can't spend a dime, or I'm not going to, this. People were like, oh, okay, so I can still buy food. I can still make my car payment.
Right.
I can do whatever. I mean, $1,200 a month isn't a fortune.
No, I know.
But
it's something. It's a cushion. Are you kidding?
It was enough of a subsidy to keep you going. And it worked because the country was able to withstand the stoppage of the economy that they went through for a month or two, like everybody else, And people complained about that $600 a week from the federal government, but it's like, I don't think we're a long way from motorcycles.
Yeah, we got to get. We'll jump back in after that, but yeah, it's life. It's the present moment.
It is. Listen, I don't think. Well, I'm in entertainment. We're the last industry that's going to come back. People ain't worried about us, and that's
I
the
disagree.
reality.
Do you really think that?
Yeah. As far as like you look at places like Vegas, Vegas is going through that.
Vegas is up and actually when you were talking right now.
Not the shows.
Oh, not the shows. Not the shows.
No, they're gambling, and some of the restaurants are open.
Some of the clubs are open too.
Right.
People are partying.
But the shows aren't.
That's right.
And you look here in LA. Look, go to Sunset. The shows aren't happening. The Roxy ain't open. The Laugh Factory ain't open.
Yeah, I see that. You're right.
Comedy store,
concerts, entertainment.
Correct.
Yeah.
Forget about concerts. I mean, when this thing started, the Hollywood Bowl was like, "Yeah, we're done. Nothing this year. Forget it."
Right.
Because how are you going to put 10,000 people in an arena? But what I was going to say, as far as that money from the government, there's always people. Well, people are just sitting at home not working. I don't think most people don't want to sit at home and not work.
Yeah.
Most people, it's not by choice that they're like, well, I'm not going to go to work. I'm getting $600 a week. Most people would rather work. There's always going to be a few that want to game the system. There's always going to be some that are gaming the system. But there's some gaming the system on Wall Street for millions of dollars.
Right.
But the average people, they want to work, but their company is shut down, so they can't work. So they wonder, like you were saying, they want to keep their home. They want to keep their car. So this is a time when the government, to me, this is when the government needs to step in.
Right.
This is the job of the government. Step in, take this hit, we'll take on some debt. It's not. I'm not saying it's great, but it's necessary.
Yeah, no, but it helps. It feeds people.
And then over a period of time, we go. Because I just saw a thing today that said 1 out of 5 businesses is going to go bankrupt because of this. Which is really bad if you're the one.
Right. And bad for you, and bad for all your employees, and bad for all the families affected.
Everything that trickles down.
And not only that, but they had to do it just for the simple reason that the anarchy. If people don't have that $1,200 to buy their food, or the $600 a week, whatever that case is, the anarchy, the madness, the stuff that, I mean, the streets are already bad. You've seen the changes in the streets in LA. Every exit, tense. But if there wasn't any kind of money supporting anybody, I think we'd be, I don't know, I think this country would be in trouble.
I think the most dangerous thing that no one's talking about, they talk about the Civil War and the race wars and the this and that. If the haves and the have-nots start fighting, we're going to be a problem. You can't push people. You know what I mean? The have-nots, because we're not talking about people who don't want to work, or people who are lazy, or someone. We're talking about people who just don't get a chance, how far can you push people, man? People snap, it's unfortunate,
right.
but it does happen. So I think you got to be aware of that. You got to be aware of it because if somebody feels they're doing it right, okay, they're playing by the rules. They got a job, they're paying their bills, they're doing, whatever, you know what I mean? And then suddenly that goes away. And then they're like, man, fuck, I did it by the rules and I got fucked. Now I'm mad. I think you got to worry about that. Which is why we have motorcycles.
So if everybody gets a fucking motorcycle, we would avoid all these problems. Did you guys hear that? I'm going to make one more point because it crossed my mind, talking about this topic, and then I want to talk about your favorite ride. And I know we don't have that much time, but it was interesting. I was with my girl driving down Ventura, and you look at all the restaurants, everybody's outside, right? And everybody's outside. Everybody's outside. You're driving this sushi place, that sushi place. Ventura's the capital of sushi, and she goes, "Look how they have us sitting outside." And because she said in that tone, I started thinking, well, why do they have us sitting outside? Are they trying to track us and verify us by satellite and cell phone and this, that? Anyways, made a ride on Laurel Canyon, and now I see all the tents under the bridge. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. How crazy is that? Because now, like what you were saying, the has and the has-nots. The has-nots now just look across and see these guys eating outside. What's stopping, this guy, if he's starving or hungry, attacking those people? Like we're all outside now. Before we were safe indoors. Now, if you want to do anything, we're outside, and it's. I don't know. I feel like it's getting very, very risky.
Listen, the homeless problem is a huge problem, and it's bigger. It's a bigger problem in LA because housing costs so much. It costs so much to live. Me and a friend were talking. Her daughter is in her mid-20s. And I met her when she was in her mid. I said, the difference is back then we could pay our rent with our paycheck.
Right.
Nowadays, you get a starter job. You literally cannot pay the rent with a paycheck. I'm not worried about homeless people attacking people on patios because, again, most people aren't like that. There's a few with mental problems out there that might do it, but for the most part, they're not. And if you were inside the restaurant and they were going to attack, they still would. You know what I mean? See, that's the kind of thing. Like, I think we're sitting outside because we're dealing with an airborne virus. So by being outside, we're not all breathing the same air we would be breathing indoors. You know what I mean? I don't buy into the conspiracy. I just
neither do I.
Because you know why? We're not organized enough to run a conspiracy.
Right. and a worldwide one to top it off.
Right.
No,
yeah, we're not that. We're not that smart.
And the government's not that good at organizing something.
If they were that good, we wouldn't have all these other problems.
Yeah. I read
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, please.
No, you were saying you read something.
I read a post, and it was something along the lines that wearing a mask into a restaurant and then being seated and taking off the mask is like going into the pool and then just walking to another section and just peeing.
Yeah, but it's really not.
No,
it's really not because the mask. See, I think one of the things, and again, unfortunately, we listen to politicians rather than scientists.
Right.
Because all the doctors and scientists are like, the mask isn't to protect me from you. It's to protect you. It's like to keep me from breathing. It's like covering your mouth when you sneeze.
Yeah.
It's courtesy.
100%.
It's not perfect. It's not perfect, but it does limit the amount you exhale on. Now, if you're sitting at a table, if I'm sitting across from you, pretty much we're only breathing on each other.
Yeah.
Which isn't the greatest, but it's a lot different than walking through with no one wearing a mask and everyone breathing on everybody.
On everybody's stuff.
And that's all it is. It's that, it's that simple.
It's precaution.
Not anything.
It's prevention and precaution. It's like wearing a helmet or not wearing a helmet. See, I brought it back to motorcycles.
Yeah, and it's not anything bigger than that. I laughed at one. Some guy posted he was sitting on a plane on Delta, and this guy was like a special forces guy. Like he was, and he's like, I'm not a pussy. I'm not wearing a mask. Well, first of all, Delta banned him for life from the airline.
Is that the one that they turned the plane back?
No. This one they got him before they took off.
Yeah.
And the other thing was, I think it was Alyssa Milano, the actress. She posted, oh, and by the way, a pussy's pretty tough. It can push out a human being.
It's the strongest thing in the world. Well, not in the world, but it's pretty tough.
I'm not a pussy. No, you're not. A pussy can handle this. And but my thing is, like, are you that insecure that, like, you're a special forces or SEAL or whatever, like you're legitimately a badass. Are you that insecure in your manhood that you don't wear a mask?
Yeah, it's pretty childish.
No, to me, like, I'm like, I have a Hulk mask.
I saw it. Love it.
Can't be manlier than that.
Yeah.
I got a Hulk mask.
A black guy, 6'4", getting off his bike with a Hulk mask. That's totally normal.
That's right.
There is a report that also came out, or a study that said people that are not wearing there's people that wear their mask seem to be more intelligent than non-people that don't wear masks.
Yeah.
They're just
because you listen to the science.
Right.
You listen to the science rather than the mob conspiracy theory. I love some of the conspiracies. Don't take the vaccine because Bill Gates is putting in some electronic thing to track everyone. And it's like, you know what?
I mean, when you simplify like that, it's pretty funny.
And you're really not that important.
Yeah.
Everyone who thinks the government is out to get them, it's like, you know what? You're really not that important. They're not really interested in you. You got nothing. You have no state secrets. You haven't invented anything. Nah, they're not following you.
They don't care about the average Joe. And pretty much there's a lot of average Joes. And if you live a pretty straight life, you have nothing to worry about. Have you seen the ID2020.org?
Yeah.
I mean,
listen, if they want to track you, they already are. You know why? Because we all have phones.
Yep.
Right. Every one of us has a phone, and they know where you are.
And our motorcycles have GPSs. Our cars have GPSs. Yep. Everything's trackable.
They know every penny you spend, through your credit card, through your debit card. And you know what? Nobody gives a shit.
Yeah.
You're not that important. You're not changing the economy by spending $800 at Best Buy. Nobody's like, whoa, his spending is unusual. Nah.
He's at the casino. And then just to end it real quick on motorcycles again, because that was the whole point of this conversation. But I'm happy to get feedback and listen to that. What's your favorite ride, or what's been your best experience or adventure that you've had?
Without a doubt, the greatest ride I ever did was across country. I rode LA to New York to Americade, a big touring rally. It is one of those things that you put it on your bucket list, you do it. It exceeded my expectations. I absolutely loved it. It was amazing to ride across the country, see the different geography, the climate, the fact that there's nothing but corn. Like once you come down the hills from Colorado and hit Kansas, there's nothing but corn until you get to Ohio. I don't know what we're doing with all that corn, Robert. There's 3 days of fucking corn.
Yeah.
Okay? But no, seeing things like that, that was an amazing ride. And the other thing is, I've ridden in different parts of the country. I've done the Tail of the Dragon, and the Southeast United States is just beautiful. Riding up in North Carolina, Tennessee. I've ridden Western New York and into Vermont and stuff like that. We are so spoiled here in Southern California. We have the most beautiful roads, the most beautiful riding weather that you can imagine. And it's fun. Like, you've heard the Tail of the Dragon.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever ridden it.
Never, but I've heard of it, seen it, pictures, videos.
It's a great road. It's a fun road. You know what? We got Latigo. Yeah. So when I rode the Tail of the Dragon, I was like, all right, it's nice, but I got to admit, I'm not that impressed. Because when you ride Latigo Canyon down to Malibu and you see the ocean from the top and you end at the ocean at the bottom, that's pretty impressive, especially to be 20 minutes from LA.
Right. Right.
But 30 minutes from my house, I'm on Mulholland Highway going forever. And then forget about when you get up, between Monterey and San Francisco and all those roads
PCH,
up there.
Yeah. Or just take the PCH all the way up.
We're so spoiled. There's so many beautiful rides here in Southern California and Central California that, I love it, man. I love the fact that that's my backyard. I love the fact that, all those Malibu canyons, Stunt, Piuma, Mulholland Highway, Latigo, all of that that's our backyard. We have Angeles Crest and all of that. So, and the other rides I love, late at night to even into early morning, riding through the city when the city's asleep.
Yeah.
Riding
what
the
time?
City when it's after midnight, sometimes like 2, 3 in the morning, whatever. Yeah, when the city's asleep, riding the city streets is fun. It's just interesting to see.
Did you have you tried the Clearwaters?
No, where's that?
Oh, I'll send you a picture. Clearwaters is a company. They make LED lights for the GS. They make it for other
Oh,
bikes.
oh, the lights. Oh, I
Yeah.
thought you were talking about road. No, I have. Yeah, I have clear waters on my GS.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, night riding
Like
with Clearwaters.
like daytime.
They're cannons.
And the other great thing about them is they see you. So when you're splitting lanes or whatever, like they can't kill you.
Far.
Yeah, I put the yellow lenses on my. I did the axle mount clear waters, and I put the yellow lenses on them.
Yeah.
And they see me.
Yeah.
They
And
see.
that's the best riding at night. Malibu, canyons, downtown, anything. That's why I was asking what time and what kind of lights you're running. Alonzo, I appreciate your time. We're over an hour. Went over what we were talking about, but I appreciate everything. I appreciate your feedback. I do want to catch up with you later down the road and talk some more.
Yeah, we'll see you out there. It's fun to talk to you. And yeah, we'll see each other out on the roads. The world's going to open back up. I'm doing a drive-in show this weekend in Escondido.
Escondido?
Yeah, down towards San Diego.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's another first, doing the drive-in. But yeah, we're out there, man. Ride safe. It was fun virtually talking.
Absolutely.
We get to do it live.
What's your handle again, so everybody knows, my listeners know?
Okay, on Instagram is ZoFunny, ZoFunny, and everything else is at Alonzo Bodden, my name. Just look up Comic Alonzo. You can't miss me.
Awesome. I got a lot of friends that are excited for this podcast. Thank you,
man. Sorry we got into all the politics and didn't stick to bikes. Next one, no reality, only motorcycles.
That's right. Thank you, Alonzo. You take care, brother.
Bye.
And that's a wrap. Thank you to all the followers, subscribers. Make sure you go onto the Instagram and follow at Ride Boundless for photo content and images and next shows coming up. Let your friends know about the podcast if you love it. If you don't, send me a message and tell me what you want me to change. If you have a guest that you want to hear or is a big motorcycle enthusiast, send them my way. We can be reached on the website or via Instagram. It's the easiest way. Once again, I want to thank everybody. Ride safe, ride hard, ride boundless.